Last year, I played Batman Vengeance for the first time. I know it's tough to do after I've been bashing the controls, but if you can find a way to live with these controls, there's some fun to be had in this over 20-year-old Batman game. There was enough for me to want to play the direct sequel, Batman Rise of Sin Tzu. So let's finally jump into Batman Rise of Sin Tzu. Immediately, I see that Bat family and the ability to play as any of them for the story mode. I do go for Nightwing because he seemed like the best to me, and I barely get to use him in anything. The story is that on the anniversary of Bruce's parents' murder, massive breaks happen at Arkham Asylum and Stonegate prison, which means a few villains are loose in the city, and we later discover that the one responsible for the breakout is none other than Asian warlord Sin Tzu, who wants Gotham to be his next stronghold once Batman is defeated. I will say that the cutscenes carry the same aesthetics that Vengeance had. I still love that the awesome loading screens are back as well. The game looks pretty good and sounds even better with a pretty good cast, including legend Kevin Conroy as Batman, of course, Tara Strong as Batgirl, Lauren Lester as Nightwing, Scott Menville as Robin, Hector Elizondo as Bane, and Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa as Sin Tzu.
Your soul is mine.
But out of all those legends, the big surprise to me was actually Ron Perlman as Clayface. He was really cool. They all did a great job. I mean, they're pros. That's what they do.
Still look like an easy fight, Batman?
No, just a good one.
The soundtrack, even though it's not terrible, it just feels a bit off to me. It's not quite having those Batman vibes I'm looking for, but it's okay. The first level is funky as hell, but it doesn't really say Bat Family. At the very start, the game just thrusts you into battle and tasks you to rescue civilians with a time limit. No tutorial, nothing, so I just start button mashing like a crazy fool. I'm punching and kicking, and I'm randomly filling up this meter up in the top corner. Eventually it starts flashing. In video games, this usually means I can do some cool stuff now. I'm starting to get my ass kicked a little, and I think this little flashy bar will help, so I head on over to the pause menu, and I find the combo list. That's pretty helpful, but nothing necessarily on the flashy bar. I finally found a tip and it says, when the combo meter is flashing, your hero is ready to unleash the power move. Hell yeah. Once you have performed a power move, the meter will begin to deplete. Perform as many power moves as you can before the meter is completely depleted. Yeah. But how? Anyway, I eventually figured it out. I was pressing triggers twice, I was holding down the buttons all at the same time, and all I had to do was hold down a button. So I just saved myself from a weird Cuphead review situation there. And I went back to the move list to see if it said, and apparently this means hold down. I guess that's why they do the hold down in parentheses now. Anyway, I'm just going to chalk that up for me being blind. Whatever, we figured it out. In my defense, there's also a timer going right off the bat, so I'm stressing out, and it feels like there's no time for you to like sit there and fighting and experiment because, well, you have to save these goofy ass civilians. Once I eventually figured out the combat is fun at first, and like the tip says, you earn style points that help you purchase upgrades that help the combat feel not so repetitive at first. There are a ton of combos you can buy and eventually do, and it's really based on timing. You also get more power moves to do with more intricate ways of using them, but honestly the combat isn't even that horrible. There are grabs and upgrades you can do as well, and I really like the variety of gadgets too. They do come in handy and they have to help you out in a pickle when you just get surrounded by enemies, which happens a lot, especially if you're playing solo. But I just want to get through this first level because I just hated this whole timer for civilians gimmick. It was driving me crazy and really got old fast.
In this place, you don't have to go looking for a fight. Stick around long enough, and a fight will come looking for you.
It turns out it was the whole game. I just personally hate being rushed. It's not letting me savor the game, but I pressed on nonetheless. At least they do change it a bit. It's not always just saving civilians all the time. Sometimes you have to defuse bombs and other things, but the mechanic is still the same. Fight through a horde of enemies, touching these flashy circles until you get to the end. And you have this stressful time limit to do so. And because of that, for me, the game becomes pretty boring pretty quickly. I will say until you get to the end of the chapter, but still, this can be played with 2 players, and that might be the best way to do so because playing solo, like I said before, enemies will just pile on you, especially later on if you're not careful. That's why the power moves are so important. I even tried cheating. I wanted to just run past everybody and touch all the circles, but no, they won't let you proceed. They put up the invisible wall and force you to take down the bad guys. But the game also cheeses you. So after saving or defusing a bomb, you will get a new set of time. And this time is always predetermined no matter what. It doesn't matter if you have 30 seconds remaining or a minute, it will still only give you what it thinks you will need for the next section. Even if you still have enemies to take down that tagged along from the last section. So here's a real tip, just in case you do decide to play this old ass game. Number 1, play with a pal. Number 2, don't be afraid to let the clock run down. If you already unlocked the area where the civilian is and you still have plenty of time, take care of the fools that are around you, don't touch the circle yet, then save the civilian because like I said, they will just give you the set amount of time, whether you beat the remaining fools or not. Because honestly, other than the cake, the biggest lie in gaming history is this damn clock. It resets to 15 seconds a few times if it goes all the way down anyway. Well, at least it did at the beginning. So why not just give me those extra 15 seconds for real from the jump instead of stressing me out, you stupid game. At least the enemy skins change a little bit. You're fighting the villains, lackeys, and the final level of the chapters are boss fights, which honestly, just cause there's no timer, I loved. Some are more creative than others, and I guess I can say that they're pretty fun. Honestly, I can't really tell. I don't know if I was just relieved that there was no clock or they were actually fun. The levels look okay and the design is decent. There are stuff around the environment that helps you destroy to kind of help you out, like gas tanks or shooting down a rope with a crate. So even though you pick a hero at the beginning, you can still switch heroes mid-story, but each hero progresses individually, so it's tough to switch to like a Batman on the 3rd chapter where he's missing a lot of the combos, power moves, and gadgets you kind of need to progress, just because of you get overwhelmed with enemies pretty quickly. There's also a challenge mode where I head back to check out on the rest of them, and they do play a little bit different from each other. Batman and Nightwing share the combo list, but Batman feels a bit bigger, slower, and tougher than Nightwing. Nightwing feels a bit faster and lighter than Batman. Batgirl and Robin share their combo list, and they're way faster than the last two, but obviously a little bit weaker. So even though Batgirl kind of looked cooler than everybody else, I think, after playing with them, I think I made the right choice with Nightwing. He's not too slow, and he's also not too weak. If you played this game back in the day, or even now, let me know who you like. But it also doesn't matter who you pick. You will only just see Batman in the cutscenes, and that kind of sucks. Honestly, to me, this game sucks. There's no detective work. There's nothing special about it. It's just kinda a thrown in beat 'em up with a terrible force mechanic that ruins the game completely, which is sad because this could have been fun without the whole time and saving the stupid civilians and bombs. Just make it a normal beat 'em up. Add more creative things to do. I mean, they had the combat and the multiplayer factor. They had okay boss fights, but they had to mess it up with a clock. I don't get it. I wish I could say that for me, the clock didn't matter, but it was. Just because the way I play, I like to take my time, so the clock was running down a lot. Maybe the clock wasn't a factor to you. Again, let me know down in the comments. But I really didn't like Rise of Sin 2. It never really rised for me, and the clock was a sin. Of course, let me know what you think down below. Do you have nostalgia for this? Did you play it back in the day? Anything at all, let me know. But because I wasn't a fan of Rise of Sin 2, I wanted to try out another Batman game I know nothing or even heard anything about a try. That was Batman Dark Tomorrow. And for my mental state, this has to be good. You know what? These cutscenes are actually pretty fluid and they look pretty cool. Okay, I've seen that a million times. The music does feel really epic. Why does everything feel so awkward and unnatural? From punching to swinging from the bat grapple. Why are there 2 different buttons to dismount from the bat grapple? How is it even possible? He's letting go while he's swinging back and then he moves forward. What is this? Why doesn't anything work? This game is so uncomfortable. What the f is wrong with this camera now? It goes from fixed to side and it's switching up and your sense of direction's all screwed up because in one frame you're going to the left, the other one you're going to the right. What the hell's going on? I've only played this for 5 minutes. You know what?